Hello everybody, welcome back. My name is Dominic and I am the host of the Android Factory, and thanks for tuning in to another episode. Previous two episodes we've talked about theming and specifically color in Android and how you can alter the theme from the default one and then a little bit of customization along the way to end up with this or something better if you can come up with a better palette or whatever. But if you missed those two episodes, I'd recommend going back. I'll link a card in the top right so you can go ahead and do that. It's pretty important to know and understand how some of those colors are being set and why they're being set on different elements, either the surface here or the background or the toolbar, etc. And then we cover dark mode as well. So in today's episode, I kind of want to just enhance the application a little bit and make it so that we can edit this piece of information, right? So let's say for some reason we spelt toilet paper wrong, or I don't know, we wanted to say avocados and peaches or something along those lines. Instead of having to, currently we would have to like delete this item and create a new item that had that. Obviously that's not good, so we should be able to basically click on one of these elements here in the list, and then we would appear basically on this screen, and the information would be filled out for us based upon which element was selected, and then we're able to kind of update certain things. So I went ahead and just included the plugin that we need for the safe args here to accomplish this data passing, but my idea is, or initial thought is, when you select one of these items, we can invoke this screen but pass in a particular ID for the item that was selected, and then we can go ahead and fetch that, fill out all the data, and allow the user to update that information from there. So we are going to actually need to bubble up this interaction here. So inside of our epoxy controller, we have our item entity epoxy model. Oh good, we already are passing in an interface here, and so that's how we communicate the on bump priority. But let's say on item selected, and we will pass in the item entity that was selected. And then inside of our bind function here, we can say root set on click listener, and we will invoke our item entity interface dot on item selected with our item entity that was passed in. So nothing else needs to change here except the fact that where we are creating this epoxy controller inside of our home fragment, we now need to implement the new method here. So item selected, and then the idea is that we're going to go ahead and navigate to this screen as if they had clicked basically this fab, the floating action button, but we're going to navigate with a little bit of a parameter here. So I think I've covered this in some previous episodes on the Jetpack navigation components and their the architecture here, but inside of our nav graph we can define an argument to be here. We're going to name it selected item entity ID. It's going to have a default value of null. We're going to make this nullable true, and arg type will be a string. So if we go ahead and just build this really quickly, we should have the generated file for us that will allow us to navigate from one action or from one fragment to the next, passing in this particular argument here. So it seems we've finished building here, and then what we can do is say our nav directions is going to be the home fragment directions dot this action, passing in a nullable I wonder if that's correct or not. I don't want it to actually be like the word null, I want it to be null. Is that the correct? Yes, that's the correct annotation. The little at in front of the null will actually set it to null. But here we're going to want to set our item entity dot ID, and then we're just going to say navigate via nav graph, and we need to pass in the nav directions. We don't have this function here, but we will in a second. So this we can pass in the nav directions, oops, which is just going to be of type nav directions, and then our home fragment is going to use that one, and great. So we will end up in the other screen with our information, and then we can actually, or with the correct ID, and then we can fetch that ID, right? So if we had private val safe args of type, of type add item entity fragment args by nav args, that will go ahead and get the navigation arguments set for this fragment, and then we can say private val, just want to figure out how to do this, selected item entity is going to be an item entity nullable by lazy, and it's going to be shared view model. So we're going to go ahead here, and when this is first invoked, we're going to go ahead and look at our shared view model, the item entity live data. We're going to go ahead and try to find the element in that list whose ID matches the ID that was passed in through the safe args, and this is nullable, right? Because I guess there's the possibility that this will not have any data in it, highly unlikely, but it is possible that this code is going to run regardless of if we actually went to the screen because they clicked on the plus button or because they clicked on the a particular item and wanted to add it in. So in our onView created, we can do a couple things here to kind of check what we want to do, right? So maybe let's say here, set up screen if we are in edit mode, right? So if what was it called? Selected item entity. Well, we could do it this way. Selected item entity, let item entity, and now at this point that would mean that this code's going to run if this element is not null. So maybe let's even have a variable here. It's not necessary, but let's just do it. Is in edit mode boolean equals false, and then here we're going to say is in edit mode equals true, and then we're going to set up some other things here, right? So the binding title edit text field dot text is going to equal the item entity dot title, the what happened? The description edit text set text is going to be the item entity dot description, and then when the item entity dot priority is 1, we're going to go ahead and say binding dot radio group set checked. Check r.id radio button low. We'll copy this 2 more. We'll say 2. Otherwise, we'll say else. And then we're going to go ahead and say radio button medium and radio button high. And let's see, what else is there? That's about it. Maybe we can go ahead and say on the binding dot button, the text could say update instead of save, right? And then maybe we could also do the same for the toolbar. I don't think I need the parentheses. Title is also going to say update item. Okay, and then I think that's more or less it, except for the fact that, sorry about that, my cat is stepping on my keyboard. Very nice of you. If complete, let's say if is in edit mode, we're going to just navigate up because we kind of don't really want to allow them to like save multiple things because the element's edited, so you'd kind of think you'd bounce back up to the previous screen, which should be fine. But the only other thing is we need to save the item entity to the database when they click the well, I guess we could just have a little bit of well, no, because we could do branching logic here to say if we're in edit mode, update the item instead of saving it. However, I kind of want to keep this, right? We have a little bit of error handling here, you know, because it's possible the user just deletes the title for some crazy reason, and now we need to handle that case. So we want to keep this all the same, really, except, all right, come, cat, error. Wow. Okay, sorry about that. Hey guys, so sorry about that. There's no better way to put this, but for some reason, shortly after the cat stepped on the keyboard for the second time, the recording just went black. And I actually do remember in the middle of it that the screen was black and I kind of woke it back up, but it seemed to be recording, at least from what I could tell it was recording, and it was, but it was just no longer recording any video. It was just 8 minutes of black. So I am just gonna stitch this in to kind of fill in the gaps of where we left off. But the idea is, you know, we have our save item entity function here. If we are in edit mode, we go ahead and actually basically copy our item entity that we were passed in, or that we fetched immediately when we were passed in the ID to this fragment, and then we just update the information we have and then call update on our view model. We also augment our update function to actually fire this transaction complete live data so that we can observe that event happening here, and then if we are complete, and then if we're in edit mode, we just navigate up. So as we can see here, if we were to, you know, need 6 bananas instead of 4, we can see, well, first of all, you can see that we click on it and everything updates, right? Our toolbar updates, our button updates, this stuff is all filled in and the priority is set properly. And then if we go ahead and just change it to 6, click update, we get bounced back, and you can see here that we have 6 now saved here. So I think that was basically about it as far as the stuff, like any functionality. We added in this little set selection for the length of the particular title because that puts the cursor at the end of the selection. Before I had put that in, the cursor was sitting like that and it just didn't really look too good. So when you auto-populate edit text fields, you should also do the set selection so that it puts the cursor in the correct spot for the user. And then otherwise, you know, if you just continue to add something in here, another thing, and we'll just set it to high priority and click save, everything works as expected. And then if we go backwards, we have our other thing set here. So we've basically updated and reused this field, or this page here, the add page, to also support updating a particular item, and that's just good practice because we provide a familiar UX UI to the user, so they understand how to interact with the app and what to do with the info. So I think that's about it. I don't think I'm missing anything. So again, I apologize for the little hiccup there in recording. It was a learning experience for me, so I will take note of that, or I have taken note of that, and I will keep that in my back pocket moving forward. So anyway, I hope to see you in the next one, where we're probably going to build out some kind of bottom navigation or tabs, or add in some additional screens here to just provide different screens for different functionalities that I want to accomplish. So I hope to see you there.